A group chat. The place where you don't have limits in terms of your opinion. The place where you can be bullied just for the not funny meme that you sent. And the place where you can find your own purpose in life and role, about which we are going to talk about in this video. The first person I'm going to talk about is the one whose role it is to spam as many memes as possible. Let's call him the meme spammer. Sometimes you can be in shock after not entering the group chat for the whole day because of the 200 new unread memes that the meme spammer sent during the day. On average, the meme spammer sends only one funny meme out of 10. Sometimes you even question whether the meme spammer reads the memes that he sends or if they're really funny to him. He thinks that it's his purpose in life to send a minimum of 20 memes a day, but in reality, most people in the chat ignore his memes. While the role of the meme spammer can sometimes be annoying, his role is important to keep activity in the group chat. The next person whose responsibility it is to just exist, let's call him the ghost. The ghost is the type of person who either doesn't use his phone or has an allergy to replying to messages. When the ghost finally replies, all people in the group are usually in shock because it happens like once a month. He usually replies once and writes something weird, then immediately retreats back into the shadows, from which he will rise who knows when. Sometimes it seems weird when he doesn't respond because in real life, he is one of the most talkative people in the group, but when it comes to online communication, he seems to completely change his personality. If you ask the ghost why he didn't reply, he usually says something like, "I didn't see it," or "my notifications are off," but in reality, everyone knows that he is just ignoring them without any reason. The next person is responsible for making the most absurd statements known to mankind. Let's call him the Absurdist. If the government were to obtain permission to see the Absurdist messages, he would probably receive a life sentence. His statements or thoughts sometimes defy common sense. His range of topics about which he can say something crazy is wide, starting with racist comments and ending with discriminatory comments about other genders. He seems like a nice guy in real life, but when you see his messages in the chat, you understand what's really on his mind. Even though his comments can sometimes be absurd, he manages to involve everyone in the conversation and trigger a discussion about his crazy thoughts. The next person is responsible for keeping the chat alive at night. Let's call him the night guard. He's the kind of person who seems to wake up when everyone else is going to sleep. You usually never see his messages during the day. You usually see them when you wake up in the morning. No one understands what kind of sleep pattern he has, but I think it's not the best, especially if you see him the next morning at school. In the group, there are some myths about the night guard, whether he is a vampire or just allergic to the sun. If you want something from him during the day, you can easily wait until night when he finally wakes up. Even though it's hard to talk with him in the chat due to the differences in sleep patterns, you can always talk to him when you cannot fall asleep at night. You can be confident that he'll reply. The next person is responsible for being online 24/7. Let's call him the chat worm. He always, and I mean always, replies to every message in the chat and tries to start a discussion. Sometimes it seems like he is working as a moderator in the chat, even though no one's asking him to do it. Despite being the most active in the group chat, he's not like that in real life. Some people in the group think that the chat worm does nothing at all in his free time because of how often and quickly he responds to messages. But his importance in the chat cannot be questioned. He can immediately help or comment on the quality of the memes that people send in the chat. He keeps the chat alive and ensures that your messages will not be ignored. The next person is responsible for voice or video messages in the group. Let's call him the text hater. You almost never see him send text messages. He always sends video or audio messages, which are often more than 1 minute in length. He thinks that it's easier and quicker to express what he wants to say by sending a voice message than simple text, without realizing that 80% of his voice messages consist of waffling without any useful content. He also never considers that voice messages can be sometimes uncomfortable to listen to, especially if you're in a noisy place. But he adds a bit more life to the chat with his voice messages, even though most of them don't have any real purpose. The next person's responsibility is hard to describe, or rather, whose existence in the group is hard to describe. Let's call him the random. No one knows how or when he joined the chat group. No one talks to him in real life, and half of the chat group doesn't even know what he looks like. Sometimes he replies with comments, creating awkward situations that are usually ignored. Even though he doesn't add any value to the group chat, and it would probably be better without him, no one wants to kick him from the chat because he just needs to be there. He just needs to. And finally, the last person I want to talk about, who uses the group chat only for his own selfish purposes. Let's call him Mr. Selfish. You almost never see him send a meme or message without any request behind it. He always needs help with his homework, tests, or his life problems. If you want something from him or need help, you'll never get it because he is basically selfish. Even though most members of the group understand for what purposes he is using the chat for, some of the members still try to help him, making the chat look like an advice center. I shared the most common roles that I've encountered throughout my life. There are also a couple other other roles you might encounter, such as the person who doesn't understand any jokes or memes, the person who never sends messages except for TikToks, and the person who constantly tries to make jokes but is unsuccessful. Special mentions need to be made about the group chat's name. I think it's almost impossible to find exactly the same group chat names for any two group chats. Each one is the most unique and interesting one you've ever heard. The group chat name is always invented completely random after a couple of unsuccessful attempts. Usually, the name is connected with a completely random thing or event that occurred within the group, and no one outside the group can explain why or what the group name means. In conclusion, I want to say that the group chat is a beautiful place that unites all different personalities in one chat. Just like in any friend group, each one has their own responsibility and role, which in some sense complements the others. And without a doubt, each role is no less important than the other, except for the random. I hope you find yourself in this video, and if you do, leave a comment sharing which role you have in your own friend group chat.